My name's Nicolas, and I've been doing sound design professionally for 10 years, I think, 10, 11 years. A lot of video games, a lot of TV shows and movies, documentaries, and also some upcoming projects that I can't talk about, unfortunately. But maybe we can talk about that next year. So for Survivor, it was pretty obvious from the get-go that we couldn't take the original sounds and cram them into this game. Mostly because the gameplay is so different, and the pace of the game is very different as well. And of course, we've got a whole different perspective. We're working with an isometric perspective instead of a first person. Once you reach some of the later levels, you quickly realize that you've got hundreds of bullets flying across the screen at all times. So it was pretty obvious that we needed to redesign a lot of these sounds to make them fit this sort of gameplay. I tried out making some really subtle sounds to begin with because I was afraid that the game would end up being just like a noisy mess. And then I slowly evolved the sounds into something a bit more powerful and more aggressive. So it was a bit of an iterative process of me going from something very quiet to something very aggressive. So what I do for each project that I work on is that I try to create a unique sound library for each video game or each movie that I work on in order to have like bespoke sounds that fit this universe that I'm working in. So instead of just diving deep into like pre-made sound libraries, it's a lot more fun to really create a template of sounds that are unique to this project. And what I've done specifically for this project is that I've used a bunch of sort of weird microphones. I have these two devices here in front of me. This one is pretty known. It's called the Electro-Schluch, I believe. It's really fascinating. It's a device for electromagnetic listening, and it allows you to listen to the words of electromagnetic fields. So if I were to turn it on and put it up against my phone, it would pick up the electromagnetic field around the phone. And this is really useful for like creating very digital sounds, for instance, UI sounds. It's such a fascinating thing to dive into, like a world of sounds that you can't hear. I find that really fascinating. None of these sounds that this picks up are something that our ears can hear. We need like a device to translate these sounds for us, and I find that really, really exciting. And then I have this other device. This looks very like homemade. It is a device that picks up light. So if I took my laser pointer here, I don't know if you can see it, and if I shine it through maybe like a bottle of water with lots of like bubbles in it, if I do like this, you'll hear the sound of the laser getting dispersed in the water and then picked up by this device, and it creates these really otherworldly bubbly sounds that are super cool for like explosions. These have been my two main sweetener devices that I have used, and like I simply can't live without them now. Of course, if you do listen to like the raw recordings made of with these devices, they might not sound that interesting, but it's what you can like get out of them afterwards using a whole bunch of plugins and weird tools.
All right, what we're listening to now is a sound coming from a light source shining through a bowl of water, which is being shaken by a subwoofer. All I've done to it is I've pitched it down a bit and I've denoised it slightly. And as mentioned, what I always do is I try to create bespoke sound libraries for the projects that I work on, and I never delete anything. Even though I might end up with hours and hours of just recordings of me fiddling around with knobs and plugins, there's always a lot of inspiration to find in those old recordings. But of course, if you do this, 95% of what you end up making won't make the cut. And most of it might not even seem like it's worth saving. That's not true though, because you can always find inspiration in old recordings, and years from now you'll be working on a project and all of a sudden you'll think to yourself, what was that one cool sound that I did? 5 years ago, and then boom, you've got it right there, saved in your old sound library, created for this one project. Old recordings will always come in handy at one point or another. I love messing around with plugins. There are 2 plugins that I would like to highlight here. One is Snap-Heap by Kilohertz. Snap-Heap is pretty much like having a modular system right at your fingertips. It's such an inspirational tool, and you can just you can spend hours creating patches. The other plugin I would like to highlight is Traveler, made by Toonstorm. It is the best Doppler plugin there is. It sounds amazing compared to pretty much every single other Doppler effect, and it's intuitive to use. It's easy to use. This plugin will add life to any sound that you put through it. I use it quite a lot. So after adding even more plugins and resampling and adding more effects and layers, you end up with some really nice sweeteners that will fit sci-fi explosions pretty well.
I really like hiding messages in sounds. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure, I think. It's kind of like putting your finger prints all over the place in a way. And I've hidden sounds of my at that point unborn child's heartbeat in the game. I've hidden numbers that mean stuff to me and to the players as well, if they know the lore. I'm not going to give away where I've hidden stuff and what people can find, but I'm sure if there are any sound savvy people out there, they will be able to recognize some techniques that I've used. I could give a small hint that you have to turn down the music, and then some of these sounds will pop out a bit more than they do now. It's so cool that people can play like a game for like hundreds of hours and still there are like things hidden that these people that have worked on the game have hidden all around.